Have you ever witnessed a moment when nature's fiercest enemies become unlikely allies? Where desperation transcends millions of years of evolutionary rivalry? Deep in Uganda's forests, something extraordinary unfolded that left wildlife experts speechless. Today's story begins with an impossible plea for help. A desperate mother's appeal that crossed species boundaries and proved that when protecting our young, even the wildest hearts can find common ground in the most unexpected places. In the heart of Uganda's Kibale National Park, where dense tropical rainforest meets rolling savannah grasslands, before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Lies one of Africa's most remarkable ecosystems, a rare corridor where mountain gorillas and lions coexist in an intricate dance of territorial boundaries and mutual respect. This UNESCO Biosphere Reserve spans over 760 square kilometers of pristine wilderness, where towering ironwood trees create a cathedral canopy above a forest floor carpeted with emerald moss and fallen leaves that crackle underfoot. Here, crystal-clear streams wind through valleys shrouded in perpetual mist, their gentle babbling mixing with the haunting calls of black and white colobus monkeys and the melodic songs of great blue turacos. The air itself pulses with life, thick with humidity and the rich, earthy scent of decomposing vegetation that feeds this incredible biodiversity hotspot. Ancient fig trees stretch their massive buttress roots across the landscape like natural fortresses, while delicate orchids bloom in impossible colors along moss-covered branches. But Kibale harbors secrets that challenge our understanding of the natural world's rigid hierarchies. This is a place where the impossible becomes reality, where ancient evolutionary rivalries dissolve in moments of extraordinary need. In these mystical depths, where predator and prey territories overlap in ways found nowhere else on Earth, something unprecedented was about to unfold that would rewrite the textbooks on animal behavior. What happened here on one fateful morning would forever change how wildlife researchers view the emotional complexity and communication abilities of Africa's most magnificent creatures. It was an act of desperation so profound, so fundamentally contrary to millions of years of species programming, that it forced scientists to reconsider the very boundaries between human and animal consciousness. This is where our story begins, in a place where miracles emerge from the morning mist, and where a mother's love proves that even natural enemies can become allies when protecting the innocent becomes the only law that matters. Deep within Kibale's forest savanna boundary lived Kibale, a solitary lioness who had claimed a unique territory that straddled both ecosystems, a rare adaptation that allowed her to hunt the forest's edge antelope while raising her cubs in the relative safety of dense woodland cover. Unlike most lionesses who lived within established prides, Kibale had chosen independence after losing her original family to territorial conflicts years earlier. Her golden coat bore the scars of survival, while her amber eyes reflected the wisdom and wariness of a mother who had learned to navigate this complex landscape alone. Just 300 meters deeper into the forest lived Mwema's gorilla family, a group of 8 mountain gorillas led by Mwema, a magnificent silverback whose gentle nature had made him legendary among local researchers. Standing nearly 6 feet tall and weighing over 400 pounds, Mwema's imposing silver-streaked back and massive chest commanded respect throughout the forest, yet his dark, intelligent eyes revealed a remarkably peaceful disposition that had kept his family safe for over a decade. The gorilla family included Django, Mwema's primary mate, whose nurturing care for the group's 3 juveniles had earned her recognition as one of the most devoted mothers in the park. Young Bomani, Kessie, and Imara, the playful juveniles, spent their days learning foraging techniques and social behaviors under the watchful eyes of their elders, their carefree tumbling and gentle play creating an atmosphere of joy within their forest sanctuary. What made this particular territorial arrangement extraordinary was the unspoken understanding that had developed between these 2 powerful species. Kessie had learned to respect the gorilla's daily foraging routes, while Mwema's family had grown accustomed to the lioness's presence at the forest edge. Neither group encroached upon the other's core territory, creating a delicate balance that had persisted for nearly 2 years. This remarkable coexistence, built on mutual respect and careful distance, would prove crucial to the extraordinary events about to unfold, Events that would test whether understanding between species could evolve into something far more profound when desperation demanded the impossible. Dawn broke gently over Kibale that Saturday morning, painting the forest canopy in soft hues of amber and rose gold. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the dense foliage, wisps of mist rose from the forest floor like ghostly fingers, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. As the morning dew caught the light on thousands of spiderwebs stretched between ancient branches, Kibale had settled into her favorite resting spot beneath a massive strangler fig tree, where the complex root system created natural shelter while offering clear sightlines across both her forest territory and the open grassland beyond. Her 3-month-old cubs, Django and Tao, played contentedly nearby, two golden bundles of energy whose innocent tumbling and soft mewing filled the morning air with the sounds of pure joy. The lioness watched her offspring with the relaxed vigilance of a mother completely at peace in familiar territory. Django, the bolder of the two cubs, practiced his pouncing technique on fallen leaves, while gentle Tao preferred to stay closer to his mother's protective presence, occasionally nursing before returning to hesitant exploration of their immediate surroundings. 300 meters deeper into the forest, Mwema's gorilla family had begun their morning foraging routine with the unhurried rhythm that defined their peaceful existence. The massive silverback sat methodically stripping bark from a favorite ironwood tree, while Django and the juveniles searched for tender shoots and wild celery in the surrounding undergrowth. Their soft grunts of contentment and occasional playful calls created a gentle soundtrack that blended harmoniously with the forest's natural symphony. The morning soundscape was quintessentially African, the melodic calls of hornbills echoing through the canopy, the distant splash of forest elephants at a hidden waterhole, and the gentle rustle of leaves as countless creatures went about their daily routines. Somewhere high above, a troop of red colobus monkeys chattered softly, their voices barely audible over the peaceful morning chorus. It was the kind of perfect morning that embodied everything beautiful about life in this unique ecosystem, a moment of pure harmony where predators and gentle giants coexisted in mutual respect within their shared paradise. The peaceful morning was suddenly shattered by a sound that sent ice through Kibale's veins, the distinctive, bone-chilling laughter of spotted hyenas echoing through the forest from the direction of her cub's favorite playing area. Her maternal instincts exploded into high alert as she realized, with growing horror, that her cubs were no longer within sight of her protective vigil. Kibale's powerful frame went rigid as she processed the terrible implications. The hyena calls were coming from the small clearing where Django and Tao had been chasing butterflies just minutes earlier, drawn away from her watchful gaze by the innocent curiosity that made them such easy targets. The laughter grew more intense, more excited, the unmistakable sound of a pack that had discovered vulnerable prey. Her worst fears were confirmed when she heard the high-pitched, terrified cries of her cubs cutting through the hyena's cackling chorus. The sound pierced her heart like a physical blow, triggering every protective instinct evolution had programmed into her powerful frame. But as she raced toward the commotion, Kibale's tactical mind quickly assessed the devastating reality of her situation. She could hear at least 6 distinct hyena voices, maybe more, far too many for a single lioness to fight effectively, especially when protecting cubs simultaneously. Spotted hyenas were formidable opponents even for a full pride, their powerful jaws capable of crushing bones and their pack coordination making them one of Africa's most efficient killing machines. A lone mother, regardless of her skill and determination, would be overwhelmed within minutes. The cubs' cries were becoming more frantic, more desperate with each passing second. Through the dense undergrowth, she caught glimpses of movement in the clearing ahead, dark shapes circling something small and golden on the forest floor. Her cubs were trapped in the open, surrounded by predators whose cruelty toward young animals was legendary throughout the African wilderness. Time was running out rapidly, and Cassie found herself facing an impossible choice: charge into certain death trying to save her cubs, or watch helplessly as nature's most ruthless scavengers claimed the most precious things in her world. As Cassie crept through the undergrowth toward the clearing, the scene that greeted her was every mother's worst nightmare. Her 2 cubs, Django and Tao, were trapped in the center of the open space, pressed back to back against a fallen log, while 8 massive spotted hyenas formed a tightening circle around them. The predators moved with the calculated patience of experienced killers, their powerful shoulders rolling with each deliberate step as they closed off every possible escape route. The lead hyena, a battle-scarred female easily weighing over 100 pounds, approached the cubs with methodical precision. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Her distinctive spotted coat was marked with the pale scars of countless fights, while her massive jaws, capable of crushing elephant bones, hung slightly open, revealing teeth stained with the evidence of previous kills. Her eyes held the cold intelligence that made hyenas such efficient pack hunters. Little Django, despite his terror, stood protectively in front of his smaller brother, his tiny growls barely audible over the hyena's excited giggling. Tao pressed against his sibling's back, his golden fur standing on end as he released weak, pitiful cries for his mother. Both cubs were exhausted from what must have been several minutes of evading the circling predators, their small legs trembling with fatigue and fear. The hyenas were in no hurry to end their torment. These notorious scavengers were known for their cruel practice of playing with vulnerable prey, using psychological terror to weaken their victims before the final attack. Their bone-chilling laughter echoed through the forest as they took turns fainting toward the cubs, causing the tiny lions to flinch and huddle closer together. What made the scene even more heartbreaking was the cubs' obvious confusion. At only 3 months old, they had never encountered such danger before, their young minds unable to comprehend why these strange, laughing creatures were causing them such terror. Their innocent eyes darted frantically around the clearing, searching desperately for any sign of their mother's protective presence. The circle continued to tighten, and Casey realized with growing horror that she had perhaps minutes before the hyenas tired of their cruel game and moved in for the kill. The sight of her cub's terror triggered something profound within Casey. A desperate calculation that transcended every instinct evolution had programmed into her predatory nature. Her powerful muscles trembled with the overwhelming urge to charge into the clearing, but her tactical mind understood the brutal mathematics of the situation. 8 hyenas against 1 lioness meant certain death for all 3 of them. Her amber eyes swept frantically around the forest perimeter, searching for any advantage, any possibility of turning the odds in her favor. That's when her gaze fell upon something that would have been unthinkable under normal circumstances. Mwema's massive silverback form visible through the trees, feeding peacefully with his family just 200 meters away. In that moment of crushing desperation, Casey made a decision that defied millions of years of evolutionary programming. These gorillas, whom she had observed and respected from a distance for nearly 2 years, represented her only hope. Mwema's 400-pound frame and legendary protective instincts were the only force in this forest capable of challenging a hyena pack and surviving. But how could a lioness communicate such desperate need to creatures who should rightfully fear her as a natural enemy? How could she cross the species barrier that separated predator from prey and somehow convey that she needed help, not to hunt but to save? Her cubs' cries were growing weaker, more resigned, as the hyenas continued their psychological torture. Little Tao had collapsed from exhaustion, while brave Django's tiny growls were becoming barely audible whispers. Time was running out with terrifying speed, and conventional lion tactics offered no solution to this impossible situation. Cassie found herself facing a choice that challenged everything about her nature as Africa's apex predator. She could die fighting alone and watch her cubs perish with her, or she could attempt something that had never been documented in wildlife research, actively seeking help from another species, bridging an evolutionary gap that separated not just different animals, but different worlds of understanding. The hyenas' laughter grew more excited as they sensed victory approaching, and Cassie realized she had only one chance to save everything she loved. 500 meters away at the edge of Kibale National Park, Dr. Amina Nasuna, a Ugandan primatologist specializing in gorilla-human conflict resolution, was conducting her morning behavioral observations when her radio crackled with an urgent transmission from Peter Okello, a veteran park ranger conducting anti-poaching patrols in Sector 12. Dr. Nasuna, this is Peter at grid reference Charlie 7. His voice carried an unusual tension that immediately caught her attention. I need you to get here immediately. I'm observing behavior that doesn't match anything in my 20 years of field experience. There's a lioness near Mwema's family territory, and she's trying to approach them. Her body language isn't predatory, it's something else entirely. Dr. Nasuna, who had spent 15 years studying the complex social dynamics between different species in Kibale's unique ecosystem, felt her pulse quicken. Peter was one of Uganda's most experienced wildlife observers, a man whose understanding of animal behavior had been honed through decades of protecting these forests. If he was confused by what he was witnessing, it had to be extraordinary. "Peter, can you see any cubs or signs of territorial dispute?" she asked, already gathering her emergency field equipment, a comprehensive kit, including tranquilizer equipment, first aid supplies, and specialized communication devices that had served her through countless wildlife emergencies. "That's just it," Peter's voice crackled back with growing amazement. "I can hear hyena calls from the direction the lioness keeps looking, and she's—" "Dr. Nasuna, I think she's trying to get the gorilla's attention deliberately. This isn't hunting behavior or territorial marking. She keeps approaching and retreating, almost like she's asking for something." Dr. Nasuna's scientific mind raced through possibilities as she started her field vehicle. Interspecies communication beyond basic territorial signals was virtually unheard of in the wild, but Peter's description suggested something far more complex: intentional cross-species interaction during what sounded like a crisis situation. As she navigated the rough terrain toward the coordinates, her heart pounded with the realization that she might be about to witness a breakthrough moment in our understanding of animal intelligence and interspecies empathy. Yaka. When Dr. Nasuna finally reached the observation point, what she witnessed through her binoculars defied every principle of animal behavior she had studied throughout her career. Casey was engaged in what could only be described as deliberate communication with Mwema's gorilla family, moving in a pattern that spoke of desperate intentionality rather than predatory stalking. The lioness would approach to within 50 meters of the gorillas, then stop and emit a series of vocalizations unlike any hunting calls Dr. Nasuna had ever documented. These weren't roars or growls, but softer, almost pleading sounds that seemed designed to get attention rather than establish dominance. Most remarkably, when Mwema looked in her direction, Cassie would deliberately turn toward the clearing where the hyena calls were coming from, then look back at the massive silverback as if trying to direct his attention. Mwema's response was equally extraordinary. Instead of displaying the defensive posturing expected when confronted by a predator, the intelligent gorilla appeared to be actively listening and watching Kisi's behavior. His dark eyes tracked her movements with what seemed like genuine concern, and several times he took steps in the direction she was indicating. Peter's radio crackled. "Doctor, I can see the hyena situation from here. 2 lion cubs are trapped in a clearing about 100 meters from the gorillas. The lioness keeps looking between her cubs and Mwema like she's asking for help." Dr. Nasuna immediately contacted the Kibale emergency response team, requesting immediate backup with large predator dispersal equipment. The hyena pack posed a deadly threat not just to the cubs, but potentially to the gorillas, if the situation escalated. Her hands moved quickly to prepare her own tranquilizer equipment while she radioed specific coordinates to the incoming helicopter team. What happened next would challenge every assumption about the boundaries of animal intelligence and empathy. As the rescue team's helicopter approached in the distance, Mwema made a decision that would astound the scientific community. The massive silverback began moving deliberately toward the clearing where Casey's cubs were trapped, with his entire family following behind him in what appeared to be a coordinated rescue formation. What unfolded next would be remembered as one of the most extraordinary interspecies cooperation events ever documented in wildlife research. Mwema emerged at the edge of the clearing with his family arranged in a protective formation behind him, his massive 400-pound frame casting an imposing shadow that immediately shifted the dynamic of the entire scene. The hyenas' excited laughter died instantly as they processed this unexpected development. Spotted hyenas, despite their pack-hunting prowess, had healthy respect for adult mountain gorillas, creatures whose incredible strength and protective fury made them formidable opponents even for organized predators. The lead female hyena's confidence visibly wavered as Mwema fixed his intelligent dark eyes on the pack with unmistakable intent. Then came the moment that defied all natural law. Mwema released a thunderous, chest-beating display followed by a deep, resonant roar that echoed through the forest like rolling thunder. But this wasn't random aggression. It was perfectly timed, tactical intervention. As the hyenas turned toward this new threat, Casey seized the critical opportunity her unlikely ally had created. The lioness exploded from the forest edge with the speed and precision of Africa's apex predator, charging directly toward her cubs, while the hyenas were distracted by the gorilla family's imposing presence. Her powerful frame covered the distance in seconds, positioning herself protectively over Django and Tao, just as the confused hyenas attempted to refocus on their original prey. But Mwema wasn't finished. In an unprecedented display of coordinated interspecies defense, the massive silverback led his family in a slow, deliberate advance toward the hyena pack. Their synchronized movement and intimidating vocalizations created a wall of primate power that even 8 hyenas couldn't ignore. Faced with the combined threat of an enraged lioness defending her cubs and a gorilla family displaying unified aggression, the hyena pack made the only logical decision. Their bone-chilling laughter faded to uncertain whimpers as they began retreating toward the forest's deeper recesses, abandoning their prey in the face of overwhelming opposition. The clearing fell silent except for the soft mewing of reunited cubs pressing against their mother's protective warmth. As the last hyena disappeared into the forest depths, the most extraordinary moment of all unfolded in the sudden silence of the clearing. Kessie, still protectively positioned over her traumatized cubs, slowly turned toward Mwema with an expression that could only be described as profound gratitude. The massive silverback, instead of retreating to maintain territorial boundaries, remained at the clearing's edge, his intelligent eyes fixed on the reunited family with what appeared to be genuine concern. In a gesture that would be analyzed by animal behaviorists for decades to come, Kessie performed a series of deliberate movements that transcended all known feline communication patterns. She lowered her head toward Mwema in what could only be interpreted as acknowledgement, then gently nudged her cubs toward the gorilla family before stepping back, a clear display of trust and thanksgiving that left Dr. Nasuna speechless. Mwema's response was equally remarkable. The gentle giant approached the edge of the clearing and released a soft, rhythmic vocalization, completely different from his earlier aggressive roars, while maintaining eye contact with Kessie. It was as if 2 species, separated by millions of years of evolution, had found a common language in the universal dialect of parental protection. Within hours, both families had returned to their respective territories, but the invisible boundary between them had fundamentally changed. Dr. Nasuna's detailed documentation of the incident sparked international scientific debate about emotional intelligence in non-human primates and felines. Video footage of the coordinated rescue became groundbreaking evidence of intentional interspecies cooperation. The incident challenged every established theory about territorial behavior and species communication. Kessie had demonstrated strategic thinking that included actively seeking help from natural competitors, while Mwema had shown empathy that extended beyond his own species to protect vulnerable young animals. Today, both families continue to thrive in Kibale's unique ecosystem, their stories serving as powerful evidence that in nature's most challenging moments, compassion can transcend even the deepest evolutionary divisions. In Uganda's misty forests, where ancient boundaries dissolved in desperate need, the impossible became possible when 2 mothers' hearts recognized each other across the vast divide between species, proving that love truly knows no boundaries in the wild. Haunt Wreckage Game is up next. You've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.